The Holiday.
Be honest with each other. Just tell me. Did you sleep with her?
Slept with her. You happy?
Did you say, am I happy?
Oh God, here he comes.
Oh, Jasper. What's the story? Head over heels, you know?
Everybody, may I introduce the Jasper Blue?
I hate my horrible life.
Iris and Amanda are in exactly the same place,
Where do I want myself? Depressed at Christmas.
just 6th apart.
Home exchange. We switch houses, cars, everything. I need you to answer this. Are there any men in your town?
We're on our way.
This Christmas,
I'm here. I'm here.
another one opens.
I'm Miles.
I'm Graham, Iris' brother.
Do you want some company?
Is me?
Okay, sorry about that. Boob Grace. It's a dental.
You know, Graham, I just broke up with someone.
And considering that you're mainly good looking and probably won't remember me anyway, I'm thinking if you want.
Is that a trick question?
Seems like you'll go somewhere new and meet people who make you feel worthwhile again.
To celebrate being young and being alive.
Iris, hold on for a sec. Sorry, that was Amanda.
Find out how she is. Thing.
What's he been up to?
Hold, please.
I can't believe that you have had.
He told you that?
Oh my god!
Oh my God.
I can't believe you've had sex with Amanda. She's been there 5. Gently get into her knickers.
Still me.
Think The Holiday 2006 is just another Christmas romance? Think again. Here are surprising facts and my honest review that might change how you see this classic. You're watching reviews. Voila, let's get started. Holiday is a 2006 Indian romantic dance movie that was produced and directed by Pooja Bhatt. The film stars Dino Morea, Gulshan Grover, and Anjali Nair in the lead roles. It's actually a remake of the 1987 American hit Dirty Dancing, but it brings its own Bollywood style with plenty of romance, drama, music, and dance to give the classic story a fresh new vibe. Holiday is a 2006 Indian romantic dance movie that was produced and directed by Pooja Bhatt. The film stars Dino Morea, Gulshan Grover, and Anjali Nair in the lead roles. It's actually a remake of the 1987 American hit Dirty Dancing, but it brings its own Bollywood style with plenty of romance, drama, music, and dance to give the classic story a fresh new vibe. Casting: the casting of The Holiday 2006 centered on four lead performers: Cameron Diaz as Amanda Woods, Kate Winslet as Iris Simpkins, Jude Law as Graham Simpkins, and Jack Black as Miles Dumont, chosen with deliberate intent by writer director Nancy Myers to anchor a romantic comedy blending holiday warmth, cross cultural romance, and personal growth. Myers wrote the roles of Amanda and Iris specifically with Diaz and Winslet in mind from the script's early stages. She described Diaz as absolutely the right choice for a California girl, highlighting her blend of physical comedy, relatability, and charm suited to a successful but emotionally guarded Los Angeles film trailer producer recovering from betrayal. Diaz, already a major star from films like There's Something About Mary and Charlie's Angels, brought a breezy, modern energy. In interviews, she noted how Amanda's arc resonated personally, dealing with failed relationships while learning bravery and openness. She improvised moments on set to keep the comedy grounded and believable rather than overly broad, collaborating closely with Myers to infuse realistic emotional beats. Winslet, primarily known for period dramas and intense roles like in Titanic and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, represented a fresh pivot for the British actress into contemporary romantic comedy. Myers tailored Iris's lines and personality around her, even naming the character after Jude Law's daughter. Winslet embraced the chance to play a relatable English society columnist stuck in an unhealthy on again, off again relationship with her colleague Jasper. She admitted initial nerves about being funny, confiding in co star Law about fears of being recast, but prepared by studying 1940s screwball comedies like his Girl Friday. Her performance conveyed vulnerability, wit, and quiet strength, particularly in scenes with Eli Wallach's Arthur Abbott and Black Miles, Jude Law's Graham, Iris's widowed brother and single father in the English countryside, evolved during writing more than other characters. Myers met with him to discuss the script and was convinced by his understanding of the role, despite initial uncertainty about his fit in the rom com genre. After his string of period and sci fi films, Law brought handsomeness, emotional depth, and charm to a character who compartmentalizes his life as a book editor and dad to daughters Sophie and Olivia. He found the contemporary accent free role vulnerable but exciting. Robert Downey Jr. auditioned for this part, delivering what Winslet later called one of the worst British accents she had ever heard during a read through, leading to humorous rejection stories shared years later on talk shows. Jack Black smiles. The endearing film composer who connects with Iris was another Myers original creation inspired by his breakout in School of Rock 2003. She loved his screen presence and interactions with kids, seeing him as adorable and lovable rather than conventionally leading man handsome. An intentional choice to celebrate everyday romance. Black, hesitant about rom coms and public displays of affection, was persuaded partly by the prospect of starring opposite Winslet, whom he admired greatly. Their pairing subverted expectations, emphasizing chemistry built on shared heartbreak and musical appreciation. Myers even wooed him over pasta dinner. Jimmy Fallon also auditioned for Miles, reading with Diaz and Winslet alongside Downey Jr. in a memorable session. Supporting roles added depth and star power. Edward Burns played Ethan, Amanda's cheating composer boyfriend, in a brief but pivotal opening breakup scene that sets her emotional journey. Rufus Sewell portrayed Jesper, Iris's self absorbed ex, drawing on real life rumors of a past romance with Winslet that added subtle awkwardness to their scenes. Shannon Sossaman appeared as Maggie's actress girlfriend, creating romantic complications for Miles. Ely Wallach, at 90 during filming, delivered a standout performance as Arthur Abbott, the Golden Age Hollywood screenwriter, neighbor who mentors Iris with classic film recommendations. Myers had to remind the energetic veteran to slow down for authenticity. His scenes, filled with warmth and wisdom, provided emotional heart, especially as Iris helps him prepare for a Writers Guild event. The child actors, Miffy Englefield as Sophie and Emma Pritchard as Olivia, brought natural charm to Graham's daughters, enhancing Law's fatherly portrayal. John Krasinski and Catherine Hahn played Amanda's employees Ben and Bristol, adding workplace humor in LA sequences. Bill Macy and Shelley Berman appeared as Arthur's friends. Ernie and Norman cameos enriched the film. Dustin Hoffman appeared uncredited in the video store scene, spontaneously joining after visiting the set. Myers quickly scripted a bit where he reacts to Black's comments on the Graduate score. Lindsay Lohan and James Franco cameo in a trailer Amanda's company produces, with Lohan owing Myers from The Parent Trap casting alternatives, highlighted how perfectly the final ensemble fit. Martin McCutcheon was nearly Iris on hold days before filming when Winslet's schedule cleared. The auditions of Downey Jr. and Fallon underscored the competitive process, with their stories becoming fan favorite anecdotes years later. Myers' vision prioritized chemistry, relatability, and star appeal, tailored to each character's arc. Diaz's Amanda showcased her comedic timing in physical scenes, like running through snow or navigating the quiet cottage, contrasting her high powered LA life. Her chemistry with Law sparked naturally, evolving from a one night stand to genuine connection amid his hidden family life. Winslet's Iris shone in quieter, introspective moments, bonding with Arthur over old movies, rejecting Jasper decisively, and opening up to Miles, highlighting her range beyond drama. Black's Miles stood out for sincerity and humor, particularly in music related bits, mirroring his real interests. His romance with Winslet, though initially surprising to some audiences, succeeded due to genuine warmth and shared vulnerability. Law's Graham balanced charm with depth, making single fatherhood relatable and swoon worthy. The ensemble's cross Atlantic dynamics, supported by strong supporting players, created believable holiday magic. Mia's hands on approach, writing for specific actors, adjusting during rehearsals, and fostering collaboration ensured performances felt authentic. Winslet and Law's prior friendship aided sibling scenes. Black's enthusiasm for Winslet elevated their pairing. Diaz improvised to enhance relatability. Wallach's vitality, despite age, infused mentorship scenes with authenticity. The film's budget allowed for polished production that complemented the cast, with locations enhancing performances. Surrey cottage exteriors for English coziness, and LA interiors for glamour, extras, and smaller roles like kissing couples or party guests populated the world convincingly. Chemistry tests and script readings refined pairings. The lead's willingness to embrace vulnerability, Diaz crying on camera, Winslet tackling comedy, paid off. Supporting cast like Sewell added tension without overshadowing. Cameos grounded the Hollywood satire. Overall, the casting succeeded by matching actors' strengths to character needs. Diaz's charisma for empowerment, Winslet's depth for growth, Law's appeal for romance, Black's everyman quality for surprise connection. This ensemble elevated a formulaic premise into a beloved holiday staple with performances that continue to resonate, expanding further on individual contributions. Diaz's portrayal of Amanda captured the essence of a woman in transition. Her initial scenes depicted emotional unavailability and frustration with Ethan's infidelity, delivered with sharp dialogue and expressive physicality. As she settles into the English cottage, initially planning a quick return but staying after meeting Graham, Diaz conveyed layered confusion, attraction, and eventual joy. Her interactions with Law's daughters showcased nurturing potential, contrasting her career focused life. Critics and audiences praised how she made Amanda's bravery tangible, learning to open up and cry for the first time since childhood in a cathartic climax. Winslet's Iris offered a masterclass in understated transformation, starting heartbroken at the office Christmas party. Her performance built through quiet desperation to empowerment via Arthur's guidance and Miles' kindness. Scenes browsing videos with Black highlighted playful banter, while rejecting Jasper demonstrated newfound self worth. Winslet's preparation with classic films informed her timing and delivery, making Iris a character viewers rooted for across cultural divides. Her real life friendship with Law added ease to family moments, even if limited. Law's Graham required nuance. Charming yet guarded loving father, yet hesitant in romance. He navigated revelations about his widower status and daughters with sensitivity, avoiding stereotypes. His English countryside scenes contrasted Diaz's LA glamour, effectively building believable long distance tension, resolved in heartfelt New Year's moments. Audition competition from Downey Jr. underscored Law's natural fit for the accent and demeanor. Black smiles brought levity and heart. As a composer, his studio scenes reflected authentic musical passion. His breakup with Maggie and subsequent bond with Iris allowed exploration of male vulnerability rarely seen in his prior roles. The Boob Gray's sushi scene, inspired by real life director actor interaction, exemplified the film's blend of awkward humor and romance. Black's commitment, despite genre unfamiliarity, created an endearing underdog love interest. Supporting performances amplified leads. Burns' Ethan established stakes efficiently. Sewell's Jasper embodied toxic familiarity, Iris outgrows. Sossamon's Maggie added rivalry. Wallach's Arthur stole scenes with Hollywood anecdotes. Mentoring Iris toward leading lady status. Child actors, Englefield and Pritchard, delivered cute, unforced reactions, enhancing family warmth. Krasinski and Hahn provided comic relief in professional settings. Hoffman's impromptu cameo and Lohan Franco trailer bits injected meta Hollywood fun, reflecting the industry's self awareness. These choices enriched the casting tapestry. The casting process reflected Meyer's auteur vision. Personal connections, Lohan. Inspiration from prior work, School of Rock, and chemistry focused auditions. Alternatives like McCutcheon or Fallon Downey highlighted contingency planning, but the final choices proved ideal for tone, appeal, and longevity. The ensemble's interplay, romantic pairs, familial bonds, mentorships created a cohesive holiday narrative that grossed over $205 million and endures in seasonal viewing. Further details on production integration. Diaz and Law's snow scenes required weeks of filming, showcasing her physical commitment. Winslet and Black's video store improvisation with Hoffman captured spontaneous magic. Lost and inconsistencies from LA reshoots became minor trivia, unnoticed by most. These elements tied to casting contributed to the film's charm. Each actor's background informed their fit. Diaz's rom-com experience grounded Amanda. Winslet's dramatic range added weight to Iris's growth. Law's leading man history suited Graham's appeal. Black's comedic roots brought freshness to Miles. Wallach's legendary career lent gravitas. This thoughtful assembly defined the holiday's success, production development, and pre-production by the mid-2000s. Writer-director Nancy Meyers had already built a reputation as one of Hollywood's most commercially reliable voices in mainstream romantic comedy, having steered hits such as What Women Want and Something's Gotta Give to strong box office returns earlier in the decade. The holiday was conceived as her next expression of that sensibility, a dual continent love story built around the idea of two women, one American and one English, who impulsively trade homes for the Christmas season and end up trading heartbreaks for new romances instead. The premise gave Myers a chance to do something she had not attempted before in quite the same way: tell two parallel love stories at once, cutting between Los Angeles and the English countryside, so that neither actress would be positioned as the singular lead and neither storyline would overshadow the other. That structural ambition shaped almost every subsequent decision in the film's development, from casting to shooting schedule to the eventual length of the finished cut. Myers wrote, produced, and directed the film, continuing the hyphenate role she had cultivated across her career. And she has said in interviews that she does not write blind, that by the time she is deep into a script, she is already imagining specific performers in the roles she is building. For the character of Iris Simpkins, the overlooked, hopelessly devoted British newspaper columnist at the emotional center of the London set, half of the story, Myers has explained that casting a 30-year-old English woman practically answers itself, and that Kate Winslet was the actress she pictured almost from the start. Winslet, however, was reportedly anxious about taking the part. She had built her career on serious dramatic work and had not previously starred in anything marketed as a straightforward romantic comedy. And she has spoken about feeling both excited to try something different and nervous that she would not be right for the tone Myers wanted. That uncertainty did not linger. Winslet committed to the project, and the role of Iris became one of the more emotionally grounded elements of the finished film. anchored in part by her scenes with veteran actor Eli Wallach. For Amanda Woods, the brittle, workaholic Los Angeles thriller editor, whose relentless control over her life begins to crack once she lands in a snowy English cottage. Myers cast Cameron Diaz. Diaz has said she came to the project already an admirer of Myers' filmmaking and that she signed on after being given access to portions of the script, drawn to a character she found relatable, precisely because Amanda's romantic disappointments felt universal even as her circumstances were glamorous. Diaz also spoke about what she found appealing in the character's arc, the way Amanda has to unlearn her own defensiveness and allow herself to consider possibilities she had never let herself pursue. Myers, for her part, likened Diaz's comic instincts and screen presence in the role to those of Goldie Hawn, praising her ability to be simultaneously glamorous, funny, and approachable in a way she felt was difficult to cast for, and that made Diaz the right fit for a California bred character like Amanda. During filming, Diaz has said she and Myers loosened some scripted scenes on set, allowing her to improvise around the material that had been written on the page. The male leads were filled out with Jude Law as Graham, Iris' charming but initially reckless brother who unexpectedly appears at Amanda's rented cottage, and Jack Black as Miles, a mild mannered film composer who befriends Iris in Los Angeles. Law came to the role after a run of period dramas and genre pictures earlier in the decade, and he has talked about how playing a contemporary character who required no accent, no costuming, and no relocation of his usual persona was in some ways a more exposing task than his more transformative roles. There was nowhere to hide behind a character choice, and the part demanded he simply be charming and vulnerable as himself. Black, coming off a period of broad comedic work, was brought in for a lower key performance than fans of his more manic screen persona might have expected, playing Miles as a gentle, slightly melancholic romantic interest whose humor comes from small character beats rather than big set pieces. Supporting the four leads was a cast that filled in London's tabloid and publishing milieu and Los Angeles' entertainment industry backdrop. Eli Wallach played Arthur Abbott, an elderly, semi forgotten Golden Age screenwriter who becomes a warm mentoring presence to Iris while she is staying in Los Angeles. His scenes with Winslet, in which two very different kinds of loneliness recognize each other, were singled out by numerous critics as some of the more affecting material in the film. Rufus Sewell played Jasper, the caddish colleague whose engagement announcement sets Iris's arc in motion, while Edward Burns appeared as Ethan, a Hollywood actor. Amanda has a brief entanglement with. Shannon Sossamon played Maggie, Miles' initial girlfriend, and the ensemble was further filled out by Sarah Parrish, Bill Macy, Shelley Berman, Catherine Hahn, and John Krasinski. Casting for the American side of the production was handled by Jane Jenkins and Janet Hershenson, with Michelle Guish overseeing the British casting. The screenplay also folded in a handful of uncredited cameo appearances that became minor points of trivia once the film was released. Lindsay Lohan and James Franco appear briefly in the fictional movie trailer that Amanda's company is finishing at the start of the film, a wink to Myers' own history with Lohan, who had made her feature debut in Myers' remake of The Parent Trap. Perhaps the most talked about cameo, though, was unplanned. Dustin Hoffman appears as himself in a video rental store scene in which Jack Black's character is discussing the score of The Graduate. According to accounts of the shoot, Hoffman's appearance was not scripted or arranged in advance. He had gone to the store to rent a movie, noticed the film crew and lighting setup, and stopped to see what production was underway. He and Myers already knew each other, and she wrote a short bit of dialogue for him on the spot so that his unplanned visit could be folded into the finished scene. Behind the camera, Myers assembled a production team built substantially from past collaborators. Dean Cundy, a cinematographer whose credits stretch back through decades of major studio filmmaking, was brought on as director of photography, tasked with giving the Los Angeles and English segments of the film two distinct visual identities, sun-washed and modern in California, softly lit and wintry in Surrey, while still keeping both halves visually consistent enough to belong to the same film. John Hutman served as production designer, responsible for realizing two of the film's most talked about environments: Amanda's sleek, minimalist Los Angeles mansion and the cluttered storybook English cottage that Iris calls home. Both houses became almost characters in their own right once the film was released, frequently cited by viewers and critics alike as aspirational, meticulously art directed spaces that reflected the psychology of the women who lived in them. Marlene Stewart designed the costumes, again drawing a contrast between Amanda's controlled, professional wardrobe and the softer, more textured clothing associated with Iris and the English setting. Financing and distribution were arranged well before cameras rolled. The film was produced under Meyer's own Waverly Films banner in partnership with producer Bruce A. Block, with Suzanne Farwell serving as an executive producer and financing and production involvement from Columbia Pictures. Universal Pictures and Relativity Media. Distribution rights were split geographically, with Sony Pictures handling the film in the United States and Canada, and United International Pictures distributing internationally. The production budget was reported at approximately $85 million, dollars, a substantial figure for a romantic comedy, reflecting both the film's starry, quadruple headline cast and its ambition to shoot convincingly on two continents rather than fake one location for the other. Filming principal photography on the holiday began on January 4, 2006, and continued through June 15 of that year, an unusually long production window for a studio romantic comedy, driven largely by the need to shoot convincingly in two very different countries and climates, while also accommodating the schedules of a cast in high demand. Filming started in and around Los Angeles, where the production built and dressed Amanda's home along with the surrounding entertainment industry settings tied to her job cutting movie trailers before the unit relocated to England for roughly a month of shooting to capture the English countryside material, after which production moved back to finish remaining scenes. The England portion of the shoot was centered in Surrey, in the southeast of the country, with location work carried out in and around the town of Godalming and the village of Shear, a settlement whose roots reach back to the 11th century. Shear in particular became closely associated with the film after release, since it was there, in a field beside the historic St. James's Church, that the production built the exterior of Iris's cottage from the ground up rather than filming an existing building. According to accounts of the location scouting process, the filmmakers had in fact identified a real cottage that matched the tone they wanted, but its location was too far from London, where cast, crew, and equipment were based, to make daily shooting there practical. Rather than compromise on a closer but less ideal building, the production opted to construct a purpose built cottage exterior specifically for the film, allowing the design team to control every visual detail of Iris's home, down to the thatch effect roofline and cottage garden that appear on screen. A separate manor house at Cornwall in Oxfordshire was used for the exterior of the restaurant that appears in the English half of the story, adding another genuine English location to the mix of real and constructed sets. On the Los Angeles side, the production built Amanda's grand, gated house as a defining visual counterpoint to the English cottage: glass walls, cool tones, and a swimming pool standing in deliberate contrast to Iris's cluttered, warm, book lined cottage interior. The two houses were designed so that when the characters swap homes partway through the story, the physical mismatch between each woman and her new, temporary surroundings would do a good deal of the film's comic and emotional work without dialogue. Amanda fumbling to drive on the left hand side of narrow English lanes, Iris rattling around an oversized modern mansion that dwarfs her usual life. Getting that contrast right and shooting it convincingly across an ocean was one of the central logistical challenges of the production, requiring careful continuity work so that props, weather, and even the quality of light would read as internally consistent whenever the film cut between the two households. Within that 6-month filming window, a smaller unit under director Charles Shire, Meyer's former filmmaking and life partner, was responsible for shooting the footage of Lindsay Lohan and James Franco used in the fictional film trailer, glimpsed at the very start of The Holiday. This was a self-contained shoot rather than part of the main production's day-to-day schedule, generating footage meant to look like a completed Hollywood trailer that Amanda's character has just finished editing, and it gave the film's opening minutes an extra layer of insider industry savvy humor about the movie making business. Amanda works in the stunt and special effects requirements of the film were modest by blockbuster standards, befitting a story rooted in domestic settings and character driven comedy rather than action, though the crew still included dedicated special effects and stunt personnel, along with a substantial visual effects team tasked with subtler work such as environment extensions, weather effects, and other unobtrusive digital polish rather than showy set pieces. The costume, hair, and makeup departments work to maintain each actor's distinct look across the shoot's many months, with department heads assigned to individual stars, a structure reflected in the credited hair and makeup staff, who were each responsible for a specific principal cast member for continuity purposes across the long shoot. Filming wrapped in mid June 2006, leaving roughly 6 months before the film's planned holiday season theatrical release, a tight turnaround by studio standards, especially for a film with as much location work and visual effects polish as The Holiday, and one that placed considerable pressure on the post production schedule that followed. Post production once photography concluded, editor Joe Hutching took on the job of shaping the assembled footage from both the American and English shoots into a single coherent narrative. Structurally, this was one of the more demanding aspects of finishing the film, since Meyer's script deliberately cross-cut between Amanda's experiences in England and Iris's experiences in Los Angeles, meaning the editing had to balance two parallel love stories so that neither ran away with the film's momentum or its running time. The finished cut ran 136 minutes, noticeably longer than the typical studio romantic comedy of the period, a length that several critics would later point to as one of the film's structural weaknesses, arguing that the dual storyline format, while ambitious, left the film feeling stretched and in need of tighter compression. Visual effects work, credited to a team of supervisors, was largely used to smooth and enhance the production's live action photography rather than to create fantastical imagery, extending sets, adjusting skies and weather to maintain the illusion of a consistent English winter across shooting days that may not have cooperated meteorologically, and polishing shots of the two houses that anchor much of the film's imagery. Because so much of the film's tone depends on its two central locations, feeling simultaneously real and idealized. The effects and finishing work aimed for invisibility. Audiences were meant to believe entirely in Amanda's Los Angeles mansion and Iris's English cottage without ever registering that either had been artificially extended, adjusted, or dressed with digital assistance. Sound work on the film was overseen by a production sound team headed by Peter Hlidal, with sound mixing handled by Bill W. Benton and Jeffrey J. Habush, and supervising sound editing credited to Dennis Drummond and Michael O'Farrell. Given the film's heavy reliance on domestic interiors, quiet character conversation, and a prominent orchestral score, the sound mix needed to strike a careful balance between naturalistic dialogue recording and the more heightened, emotionally cued moments where Hans Zimmer's music was allowed to swell and take over a scene. Andrew Silver served as supervising music editor, working closely with Zimmer's score to ensure the musical cues landed precisely with the film's key emotional beats. Engagements, breakups, late night confessions, and the various near misses and reconciliations that make up the film's romantic plotting. The film's post production phase also had to accommodate the practical reality of finishing a large, effects assisted studio release on a holiday season deadline, with filming concluding in mid June and the film's New York premiere set for the very end of November. The post production team had roughly 5 months to complete editing, color work, visual effects, sound design, scoring, and marketing materials. A compressed schedule that nonetheless allowed the finished film to make its intended holiday release date without delay. A detail worth noting, given how frequently ambitious ensemble productions of similar scale experience release date slippage. Music, the score for the holiday was composed by Hans Zimmer, one of the film industry's most prolific and recognizable composers, whose work here departed from the large scale action and adventure scoring. He was best known for, at the time, in favor of something gentler, more intimate, and unabashedly romantic. Zimmer's music was tasked with doing much of the emotional connective work between the film's two geographically separated storylines, providing a musical through line that could unify Amanda's arc in England and Iris's arc in Los Angeles, even as the visuals cut back and forth between them. Critics who otherwise found fault with the film's script frequently singled out the score for praise, describing it as a warm, glittering, distinctly seasonal accompaniment that leaned into the film's Christmas setting without becoming saccharine on its own terms. Although at least one prominent reviewer also noted, with some amusement, that the score is explicitly acknowledged within the story itself, since Jack Black's character is a film composer and the movie includes dialogue that draws attention to musical scoring as a subject, a bit of self referential cleverness that not every critic found entirely earned. Beyond Zimmer's original orchestral material, the film also made prominent use of a licensed song that went on to have a life somewhat independent of the movie itself. Let Go, performed by the British duo Fro Fro, appears in one of the film's more emotionally pivotal sequences and became strongly associated with the holiday. In the years following its release, frequently cited by fans of the film in discussions of its soundtrack, even though it was not written for the production, the pairing of a wistful, atmospheric indie pop song with a key turning point in the story became one of the more memorable audio visual moments of the film for many viewers, reflecting a broader trend in mid 2000 studio filmmaking of blending traditional orchestral scoring with contemporary licensed music to hit different emotional registers within the same film. The music department for the production was extensive, reflecting the scale of a modern studio score. Dozens of credited orchestrators, musicians, and music editorial staff worked under Zimmer to record and assemble the soundtrack, a testament to how much of the film's tonal identity, its sense of transatlantic romance, its seasonal warmth, its swelling emotional payoffs, was carried by music rather than dialogue alone. Zimmer's contribution to the holiday would later be counted among his more purely romantic genre credits, distinct from the action, war, and science fiction scores that dominate the rest of his filmography, and it remains one of the work's fans point to when discussing the versatility of his output beyond his more famous blockbuster scores. Rolle's theatrical The Holiday had its premiere in New York City on November 29, 2006, ahead of its wide theatrical release just over a week later. It opened in the United States and the United Kingdom on December 8, 2006, positioned squarely within the crowded pre Christmas theatrical window that studios have long used to launch counter programming aimed at adult and female audiences during a season, otherwise dominated by big effects driven tentpoles and award season dramas. In some international markets, the film opened slightly earlier. It reached Spanish cinemas on December 6, 2006, 2 days ahead of its North American and British bow. Distribution followed the arrangement set during financing. Sony Pictures Releasing, operating through its Columbia Pictures label, handled the film's release in the United States and Canada, while United International Pictures, working on behalf of Universal, distributed the film in international markets. This dual distributor arrangement was consistent with the film's co-finance structure between Columbia, Universal, and Relativity Media, and it meant that marketing campaigns, while unified around the same core imagery of the film's four stars, were run somewhat independently across different territories. The film's positioning in the marketplace was calculated and, by most trade assessments, shrewd, coming from a filmmaker whose previous two romantic comedies, What Women Want and Something's Gotta Give, had both performed strongly. The Holiday was marketed as an appealing, star studded alternative for audiences, particularly women looking for a counter programming option against the heavier or more male skewing films typically dominating December release slates. Trade commentary at the time noted that the film's ensemble of four major stars gave it more combined marquee power than either of Meyer's previous vehicles. and predicted that this would help the film perform strongly against the specific competition it faced that particular weekend, which notably included Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, a considerably darker and more violent film aimed at a very different audience. The film opened at number 3 at the North American box office on its December 8 weekend, and it received a strong A grade from opening weekend audiences surveyed by CinemaScore, with polling data indicating that the audience, as anticipated, skewed heavily toward women, particularly those over the age of 25, precisely the demographic the film's marketing had been built to reach. That combination of a healthy, though not table topping opening position alongside enthusiastic audience reaction previewed the film's subsequent performance, which relied less on a single blockbuster opening weekend and more on steady, word of mouth driven attendance through the rest of the holiday season and into the new year, a pattern common to adult skewing romantic comedies of the period that tend to have longer, more gradual theatrical runs rather than front loaded openings. Home media. The holiday moved to home media relatively quickly after its theatrical run, in keeping with typical studio release windows for the period. The film arrived on DVD on March 13, 2007, roughly 3 months after its theatrical debut, distributed for home viewing by Sony's home entertainment arm, given the studio's role in the film's original North American theatrical release. A Blu ray edition followed, released on the same March 13, 2007 date in most tracking, bringing the film to the format in its early years, as Blu ray was still establishing itself as a mainstream alternative to standard DVD. Home media releases of the film generally included a standard set of bonus features, typical of a major studio romantic comedy release of that era, behind the scenes material, cast interviews touching on the experience of shooting across 2 countries, and promotional content built around the film's starry ensemble. The film's home media performance benefited from the same word of mouth momentum that had carried its theatrical run. A movie built around cozy domestic settings, a Christmas backdrop, and an ensemble of likable stars proved well suited to repeat home viewing, particularly during the holiday season in subsequent years. And the holiday gradually built a reputation as a seasonal comfort watch that many viewers returned to annually, regardless of how critics had originally received it. That afterlife, as a perennial holiday rewatch, reinforced over the years by cable and streaming availability around Christmas time, arguably did more for the film's long term cultural standing than its initial theatrical run or critical reception managed to do on their own. And it laid the groundwork for the film's ongoing presence in pop culture nearly 2 decades later, including later announced adaptations and extensions of its premise for new audiences. Reception box office. The holiday was, by any conventional measure, a commercial success against a production budget reported at roughly $85 million, dollars, with an additional estimated marketing spend in the region of $34 million. Dollars. The film ultimately grossed approximately $205, 8 million worldwide, comfortably clearing its combined budget and advertising costs and delivering solid profit for its financiers. Of that total, roughly $63 million dollars came from North American theaters, with the larger share, around $142 million, dollars, generated internationally, a split that underlined how much of the film's commercial strength depended on markets outside the United States and Canada, likely helped by its dual continent premise and the international star power of a cast that combined major American names with prominent British actors. The film's opening weekend numbers, while solid, were not spectacular in isolation. It debuted at number 3 in North America, taking in just under $12.8 million dollars over its first weekend, positioned behind other films dominating the marketplace that particular week. What distinguished the film's box office trajectory was not a blockbuster opening, but rather durability. The film continued attracting audiences steadily through the remainder of the holiday season and into the following weeks, a pattern consistent with how adult skewing romantic comedies frequently perform, relying on positive word of mouth and repeat viewing among their core audience rather than front loaded opening weekend spectacle. Trade retrospectives of the 2000s box office landscape later noted that the holiday ranked among the more successful releases of its type for the decade, a notable achievement given the film's reliance on star power and tone rather than franchise recognition, effect spectacle, or built in intellectual property to draw audiences. Commercially, the film's performance validated the same strategic logic that had underpinned Meyer's two previous directorial efforts, that a well cast, handsomely produced romantic comedy aimed primarily at adult women, released in the crowded holiday corridor, could reliably outperform expectations if given sufficient star wattage and marketing support. The holiday, with four marquee names, rather than the single or double leads of Meyer's earlier films, tested that theory at a larger scale and budget, and the film's ultimate worldwide total suggested the larger bet had paid off, cementing Meyer's standing in the industry as a filmmaker whose romantic comedies could be trusted to turn a healthy profit even against pricier, higher concept holiday competition. Critical reaction to the holiday upon its release was decidedly mixed, and that split has persisted in retrospective assessments of the film in the years since. Aggregated critical scores from the period reflect this ambivalence clearly. The film settled at an approval rating in the low to mid 50s percentile on Rotten Tomatoes, based on well over 100 reviews, with a consensus description characterizing the film as sweet and at times touching, but so heavily telegraphed in its plotting that some viewers might find themselves checking out well before the story's resolution. On Metacritic, the film landed a score generally interpreted as mixed or average, based on more than 30 tallied critic reviews, a designation that squares closely with how the film was discussed in individual reviews at the time, rarely dismissed outright, but just as rarely embraced as a genuine standout of the genre. Many critics who reviewed the film took aim at its script and structure more than its craftsmanship or performances. A widely circulated trade review from the time of release argued that Myers, while clearly still attuned to what mainstream female audiences wanted from a holiday romance, was essentially repeating and inflating a formula she had already used successfully in her earlier films, delivering beautiful international settings, attractive stars, and an emotionally engineered story that, while pleasant, offered few surprises. That same review praised the ensemble's chemistry, noting in particular that the British half of the cast, Winslet and Law, tended to outshine their American co stars in the moment to moment work of the film, with Winslet delivering an emotionally exposed performance that never sacrificed the audience's sympathy for her character, and Law bringing easy, effortless charm to a role that carried some knowing resonance for readers familiar with his own tabloid history. Diaz's performance, by that same account, started from an overly severe, controlling register in her early scenes, but a thought convincingly as the story progressed, aided by her chemistry with Law, while Black's more restrained comic performance was seen as likable, if occasionally stretched thin by a role that gave him periodic outlets for musical improvisation without fully using his broader comic range. Other critics zeroed in on the film's visual polish, sometimes as a backhanded compliment. One frequently quoted assessment suggested, somewhat royally, that Myers seemed less interested in directing actors than in art directing beautiful interiors, a comment aimed at the film's widely admired production design. Both Amanda's sleek Los Angeles mansion and Iris's cluttered, cozy English cottage were repeatedly singled out favorably as some of the most memorable and aspirational movie houses of the decade, even by critics who otherwise found the surrounding story thin. This tension between visual and material admiration on one hand and narrative skepticism on the other runs through much of the film's critical history. Reviewers frequently praise the film's sense of place, its costuming, its music, and its starry chemistry, while simultaneously criticizing its predictability, its excessive length, and what some viewed as an overly tidy, wish fulfillment approach to its characters' problems. The film's relationship between Iris and Arthur Abbott, the elderly screenwriter played by Eli Wallach, drew some of the most consistently positive notices in reviews across the critical spectrum. Their scenes, built around mutual encouragement and an unlikely intergenerational friendship rooted in old Hollywood nostalgia, were frequently cited as among the more genuinely moving material in the film, with several critics suggesting that the material between Winslet and Wallach was more compelling than Iris's actual romantic plotline with Miles, a structural imbalance that a few reviews pointed to as evidence of the film's uneven pacing across its 2.25 hour runtime. The screenplay's embedded film history references nods to the classic screwball comedies of Preston Sturges and Howard Hawks, along with a reference to Jacques Tati's work, threaded through Arthur's character as a former screenwriter of Hollywood's golden era, were seen by some critics as a charming touch and by others as an overly self aware wing that the film's own plotting did not live up to, given how readily it fell into many of the same romantic comedy conventions. It seemed to be gently mocking. Critical reassessment of the film over time has tended to be kinder than its initial reception, or at least more forgiving of its flaws in light of what audiences ultimately valued about it. Later, retrospective pieces, written well after the film's initial release, have argued that the holiday status as an enduring seasonal favorite rests less on the plausibility of its plotting and more on the atmosphere it creates and the message underlying its premise. The idea that taking a real break, resetting one's surroundings, and prioritizing one's own well being during the holidays, rather than simply performing generosity toward others, is itself a valid and even radical holiday sentiment, distinguishing the film somewhat from more conventional, family centered Christmas movie narratives. This retrospective goodwill is reflected in audience facing scores, which have consistently run well ahead of critical scores. Audience approval on Rotten Tomatoes has been recorded in the neighborhood of 80%, a gap wide enough that entertainment outlets have periodically revisited the film specifically to interrogate the disconnect between its lukewarm critical reception and its much warmer reputation among viewers, with at least one podcast segment built specifically around inviting a fan of the film, actor Billy Piper, in one such instance, to make the case that critics were simply wrong about it on release. The performances also drew individual attention beyond the ensemble level assessments. Winslet's work was frequently framed within the context of her broader career at the time, with critics noting that she brought a level of dramatic depth to a mainstream romantic comedy that was somewhat unusual for the genre, treating Iris's heartbreak and self doubt with a seriousness that grounded even the film's lighter, more overtly comic sequences. Diaz's performance was more divisive. While some reviewers appreciated her comic timing and the vulnerability she found in Amanda's later scenes, others felt the character's rigid, controlling personality in the film's opening act was overplayed to the point of making her difficult to warm to before her eventual softening. Jack Black's more subdued, non manic performance was seen by some critics as a deliberate and interesting departure that showed unexpected range, while others felt the film underused his comic gifts by keeping him so restrained, suggesting the role could have supported more of his natural energy without upsetting the story's gentler tone. Jude Law, meanwhile, was broadly praised across the critical spectrum, with reviewers consistently citing his easy charisma and the naturalism he brought to a role that required no accent work, no elaborate costuming, and no obvious character transformation. Precisely the qualities, Law himself has said, made the part feel more exposing to play than some of his more evidently acted roles in period or genre films. Taken together, the critical conversation around the holiday in 2006 and in the years since reflects a film whose craftsmanship, cast chemistry, score, and production design were rarely in serious dispute, but whose screenplay, episodic, generously long, and unabashedly comfortable, leaning on familiar romantic comedy machinery, divided critics between those willing to accept those familiar rhythms in service of a well executed, good natured holiday fantasy, and those who felt the film's polished and starry cast were being asked to do too much work compensating for a story that rarely surprised. That division, largely unresolved at the level of formal critical consensus, has coexisted for nearly 2 decades, with the film's much less ambivalent status among ordinary viewers, for whom the holiday has settled comfortably into the informal canon of modern Christmas comfort viewing, a reputation durable enough to help prompt, many years after the original film's release, renewed interest in extending its premise into new formats for new audiences. Reviews number 1, Iris Simpkins. Kate Winslet, a British journalist in love with her colleague Jasper Rufus Sewell, is devastated when she discovers he's engaged to another woman. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Amanda Woods, Cameron Diaz, a successful Hollywood movie trailer producer, breaks up with her unfaithful boyfriend, Edward Burns. Both women, desperate for a change, turn to the internet and find a home exchange website. They impulsively decide to swap houses for the holidays. Iris goes to Los Angeles, Amanda to Surrey, England. In England, Amanda finds herself in Iris's charming countryside cottage, surrounded by snow, sheep, and absolutely nothing to do. She's used to constant motion, so the stillness is disorienting. But then she meets Graham, Jude Law, Iris's brother, handsome, widowed, and unexpectedly charming. Their connection is instant, leading to a romance filled with chemistry and genuine warmth. Meanwhile, in LA, Iris adjusts to Amanda's luxurious mansion and meets Miles, Jack Black, a film composer who works with Amanda's ex. Iris also befriends Amanda's elderly neighbor, Arthur Abbott, Eli Wallach, a retired screenwriter from Hollywood's golden age. Arthur helps Iris rediscover her self worth, leading to one of the most empowering character arcs in modern rom coms. As Iris helps Arthur prepare for a Lifetime Achievement Award, she becomes more confident and emotionally independent. Miles, after realizing his own girlfriend is cheating on him, starts to see Iris in a new light. On the other side of the world, Amanda and Graham struggle with the idea of their romance being just a holiday fling, especially when Amanda learns about Graham's daughters and his life as a single dad. Their relationships mirror each other, two women rediscovering love and self value in unexpected places. In the final act, both stories reach an emotional high point. Amanda decides to return to Los Angeles early, fearing that her relationship with Graham can't survive the distance. But as her car drives away, she suddenly bursts into tears, something she claimed she physically couldn't do earlier in the film. Realizing she's truly fallen in love, she stops the car, runs back through the snow, and confesses her love to Graham. They agree to try to make their relationship work. Back in California, Iris and Miles finally acknowledge their feelings for each other during Arthur's ceremony. Miles plays Iris a song he composed just for her, a sweet, humble gesture that melts hearts. They share a kiss, symbolizing a fresh start for both. The movie ends with Amanda, Graham, Iris, and Miles celebrating New Year's Eve together in the cozy English cottage, dancing, laughing, and surrounded by Graham's daughters. It's the perfect romantic holiday themed ending, closure for everyone, yet open enough to imagine their love stories continuing. Are there post credits scenes? No. The holiday does not have any post credit scenes. Once the credits roll, the story wraps up completely, fitting for a classic feel good film type of movie, romantic comedy, holiday, romance, feel good drama cast. The film's beautiful. Emotional score is composed by Hans Zimmer, which might surprise people who know him for Inception or The Dark Knight. Here, Zimmer delivers one of his warmest, most tender works, full of piano, strings, and romantic motifs that perfectly match Nancy Meyer's cozy tone. Sorry, England. Iris' charming cottage was built specifically for the film. Yes, it's not real, but inspired by homes in sheer Surrey. The snow covered landscape plays a crucial role in giving Amanda's scenes that fairy tale winter vibe. Los Angeles, California. Amanda's lavish mansion was filmed in San Marino, with the interior shot on studio sets designed by Meyer's longtime collaborator, John Huttman. The contrast between Amanda's sleek Hollywood life and Iris's quaint English countryside visually underscores their emotional journeys. Though not a major awards contender, the holiday received. Behind the scenes, Insights Nancy Myers wrote the script specifically with Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, Jude Law, and Jack Black in mind, rarely done in Hollywood. The cottage was entirely constructed from scratch in a field. It looked so real that locals tried to rent it afterward. Eli Wallach's role as Arthur was based on real life retired screenwriters Myers met in Los Angeles. Jack Black improvised many of his lines, adding natural humor to his romantic scenes. Jude Law's accidental drunken entrance scene was shot in one take. It was so charming, Myers refused to redo it. Myers was inspired by classic Hollywood romantic comedies like The Apartment, 1960, and It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. The character of Arthur Abbott serves as a direct nod to that old school Hollywood charm. Alternate endings and deleted scenes. A few deleted scenes exist, including more dialogue between Iris and Miles at the video store and extended moments between Amanda and Graham's daughters. None alter the ending's tone, but they add warmth and character depth. Book adaptations and differences. The Holiday is an original screenplay, not based on a book. However, its themes mirror romantic literature classics, self discovery, second chances, and emotional renewal. Common in Jane Austen's works, the iconic house swap montage, perfectly scored by Zimmer, Amanda running back through the snow, crying and laughing at once. Arthur's Hollywood tribute, reminding everyone that love stories never age. Miles composing Iris's theme, one of the sweetest gestures in rom-com history. I'm looking for Connie in my life. Iris, you're supposed to be the leading lady of your own life. Arthur, I can't cry. I physically can't. Amanda, if you were a melody, I used only the good notes. Miles Easter eggs and hidden details the movie trailer. Amanda makes for her own life mirrors Nancy Meyers' signature self-referential humor. The fake trailers in Amanda's editing suite feature real footage from other Myers films. A poster in Amanda's office hints at her past work on Something's Gotta Give, another Myers hit. Kate Winslet said the film's set design was so cozy. She wanted to move into the cottage permanently. The Amanda's Mansion kitchen became one of the most Googled movie kitchens ever. The film script inspired a real life surge in home swapping websites around Christmas 2006. The Holiday was Nancy Meyers' first film to feature a fully American English cast mix. Why watch? Because it's the cinematic equivalent of a warm blanket and a cup of cocoa. It's heartfelt, funny, visually beautiful, and deeply human. It reminds us that even after heartbreak, love and self love can surprise you when you least expect it. Director's other movies number Seconder, December 23. 2022, Unhurry guest writer, The Holiday on Netflix, free, and on Prime Video. Free, tis the season to be jolly. As the holidays are quite literally around the corner and the year is coming to end, there is an inherent need to be merry and happy. I too found myself at the brink of the holiday season, trying to find myself some Christmas cheer, and it doesn't get better than a good old holiday movie. After spending an embarrassing amount of time browsing through the innumerable options on multiple number of streaming websites, I found myself rather spoilt by an array of movies, some old and some new. The commonality amongst them all was the significance of being surrounded by near and dear ones and feeling loved. I found myself drawn to a classic rom-com, The Holiday, featuring the dreamy Jude Law, Cameron Diaz, Kate Winslet, and charming Jack Black. This movie is certainly not for the cynics. This movie will leave you in a big puddle of mush. This rom-com starts with a rather lovesick English girl, Iris, played by the classic Kate Winslet, who has had her heart broken and decides to swap homes with glamorous Los Angeles girl, Amanda, played by Cameron Diaz. If these gorgeous women aren't reason enough to sit through this holiday flick, their love interests are played by the sweet Jack Black and the dreamy Jude Law. Iris and Amanda, even though are two very different women, are fed up with their love lives and decide to switch houses right before the holidays. Iris, who is from the English countryside, finds herself in a posh mansion in LA. Amanda lands herself in Asmal Cottage in the English countryside as she starts to realize maybe she made a mistake. Just as any beautifully sappy cliche, she meets Iris's brother Graham, played by Jude Law, whereas Iris meets the funny and sweet Miles, played by Jack Black, and the rest is history. As the movie progresses, you realize this movie is not just about the great romance, but the little things that make your life beautiful. Yes, the movie is well put together, romantic fantasy that makes you laugh and cry. However, it does not fail to touch on real and honest emotions. All in all, it will surely get you in holiday mood and is the perfect movie to watch, snuggled up with your loved ones or furry friends, or just all by yourself with a large slice of your favorite cake. So go and watch your favorite holiday movie this Christmas. Wishing you a great holiday season. For more such articles and content on health and wellness, don't forget to follow us. Number 3, set in England and Los Angeles during the festive season, The Holiday stars Kate Winslet, Jude Law, Jack Black, and Cameron Diaz, written directed by Nancy Meyers. The story of the four main and very relatable characters is beautifully told and features the perfect musical score by the great one and only Hans Zimmer. My favorite scene, which I'm sure is also the favorite of many others, is the one in the fort that features two talented child actors, Emma Pritchard, Olivia, and Miffy Englefield, Sophie. The Holiday is a film to watch when you're in the mood for a good romance comedy, whether it's Christmas or not. Lastly, I'm not at all mad at the undeniable Bridget Jones' Diary 2001 vibe. Watch it because it's good, funny, and romantic. Happy film loving. Number 4, a Christmas time romantic comedy with two love stories unfolding simultaneously in London and Los Angeles. The Holiday offers soothing vanilla entertainment and achieves all its objectives in an attractive star filled package. In London, the emotionally fragile Irene, Kate Winslet, works for the Telegraph newspaper and harbors a hopeless crush on work colleague Jasper Rufus Sewell. He keeps her hanging as a side interest while pursuing romance and marriage with another woman. In Los Angeles, the independent and confident but emotionally cold Amanda Cameron Diaz is a producer of movie trailers. She kicks out her live in boyfriend, Ethan Edward Burns, once she discovers his infidelity. With Christmas approaching, both Irene and Amanda decide on a break. They connect online and agree to a 2 week house exchange. Amanda is quickly lonely at Irene's small and quaint cottage in the English countryside, but her mood brightens considerably when the half drunk Graham Jude Law, Irene's brother, unexpectedly stumbles through the door. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Irene meets her next door neighbor, the elderly Hollywood screenwriter Arthur Abbott Ili Wallach. She also connects with Miles Jack Black, a film score composer. Amanda and Graham jump into a physical relationship before settling down to get to know each other, while Irene is more circumspect. She helps Arthur rediscover his passion while he helps to rebuild her self esteem, and she starts to befriend the jovial Miles, directed and co written by Nancy Myers. The Holiday is an inoffensive and high quality double romantic comedy. Within the confines of the genre, the premise is reasonably fresh. The humor understated, the performances generally excellent, and the film oozes a rich syrup of distinction. Myers gains the bonus of two stories in one movie and avoids many of the cringe inducing cliches that often plague romantic comedies. The Holiday has are no contrived misunderstandings and no sudden conflicts between the lovers that need to be resolved before the end credits. Instead, the romance progressions are remarkably calm, and the film offers four mature, life tested adults and one older gentleman grappling with disappointments, opportunities, and affairs of the heart. The film finds a few highlight gems. When Amanda decides to track down Graham at his house and uncovers his backstory, what she finds is a perfectly imperfect setup. Graham is at once made more real and more complicated, offering much more than Amanda bargained for and redefining her parameters of what love can mean. The comedy highlight is a three-way overseas phone call with Iris discovering the hazards of call waiting while trying to simultaneously communicate with her brother and Amanda Kate Winslet. Cameron Diaz and Jude Law deliver accomplished and committed performances, with Diaz perhaps emerging with the best glow and impeccable comic timing. Jack Black suffers in comparison and is often out his league, not helped by an underwritten role. Eli Wallach adds a potent shot of veteran talent as his Arthur Abbott takes on the task of educating Irene about the power that resides within women through Hollywood's back catalogue. At 15 minutes over 2 hours, the film is overlong and suffers from a gloss that may be too shiny, situations and locales a little too perfect, and characters too likable. But The Holiday is a greeting card of a film, the type that warms the heart and induces a smile when delivered with care and genuine affection. All Ace Black blog movie reviews are here. Number 5. When the holidays roll around, the movie I rewatch every year is The Holiday, 2006. Directed by Nancy Myers, a Golden Globe nominated screenwriter, producer, and director. It's one of my favorite romantic comedies. Maybe it's the nostalgia of the mid 2000s or the lives of the two female leads, but it beats today's so called Christmas rom coms. I could not help But notice that it was written and directed by a woman. The characters Amanda Woods, Cameron Diaz, and Iris Simpkins, Kate Winslet are portrayed as strong female leads trying to overcome past relationships. Sometimes in movies, women are portrayed in the same old narratives, such as being over emotional, dependent on men, and over sexualized, which are not only harmful stereotypes but also reinforce patriarchal societal expectations. While Amanda and Iris eventually fall in love in The Holiday, I love that they are portrayed as successful women with financial independence, and their prospective partners aren't intimidated by their success. In recent years, men written by women has become a popular term on social media to describe men who are portrayed as emotionally intelligent and respectful. It's always refreshing to watch this narrative unfold, especially in a movie released in the mid 2000s, like The Real World Full of Storytellers. I like the characters having creative jobs, like Iris being a society column editor for the Daily Telegraph in London, Amanda being the owner of a production company that produces film trailers, Miles Dumont, Jack Black, a film score composer, and Graham Simpkins, Jude Law, a book editor. It adds to the fact that they are creative and dedicated experts in their field. You'd rarely find a rom com where the lead is a nurse or a cop. Most leads are in media and communication fields, so there must be something that makes them appealing. I, for one, like that Myers put thought into their occupations because it makes them compatible with one another. Spoilers ahead, at first, I had mixed feelings about Amanda's character. While living in Los Angeles, her partner, Ethan, Edward Burns, cheats on her with his secretary, thinking his actions are justifiable because she works too much. She then decides to exchange her home with Iris, who lives in London, where she meets Iris's brother Graham. I questioned whether it was realistic to let a stranger who claims to be Iris's brother in, and then the rapidity with which their relationship began to develop. However, Iris' character is perfect for showing the juxtaposition between women. Iris travels to Los Angeles to Amanda's house to forget about her former love interest, Jasper, Rufus Sewell, who's also her colleague. Her storyline is more of a slow burn with Miles, which fits well since Amanda and Graham's move so quickly. Iris and Miles' storyline also explores the boundaries they set with their previous love interests as they try to move on to someone who truly loves and respects them. Amanda realizes she wants to continue exploring her connection with Graham because she feels their connection is genuine. This was something her previous relationship with Ethan mentioned. He said to her that she doesn't want to be in a couple and avoids commitment. But perhaps Ethan just wasn't the right partner for her. Amanda's trajectory goes from believing she has a problem with settling down or even shedding a tear for someone to finally crying in the taxi, realizing she has feelings for Graham and running back to the cottage. I will admit that her running back to the cottage, opening the many gates, was a bit cringeworthy, but all movies need some kind of anticipation. Although the film does not surround itself entirely with Christmas spirit, it still incorporates snowy aspects and Christmas lights. Especially in London, there's more of that holiday spirit that Christmas movies have than in the scenes in Los Angeles. The Holiday is always a 10 out of 10 for me. Number 6, I might be the only person who argues that Nancy Meyers' romantic comedy, The Holiday 2006, is about death. Death in The Holiday isn't movie death, however, with its grand importance and scene anchoring gravitas. It's death the way that people talk about death in the real world, which is to say, softly and with as little frequency as possible, or flippantly, as if a joke can erase death's terrifying permanence. Graham Jude Law reluctantly telling Amanda Cameron Diaz that his wife passed away by spelling out Widower with zero follow up is an example of the former. Iris Kate Winslet attempting suicide in the first 20 minutes by huffing gas from her stovetop range played for laughs, the latter. Both approaches are designed to remove death from daily conversation. But avoidance techniques are a young person's game. It's harder to ignore death when someone is 90 years old, like Eli Wallach's Arthur. The core of The Holiday is Iris's relationship with Arthur and his refusal to attend a Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony hosted by the Writers Guild of America. On the surface, the conflict is superficial. He's worried about being able to walk down to the stage to accept the award unassisted, and he's afraid only a handful of people will attend. But celebrating someone's lifetime of achievements is also acknowledging that life is finite. Participating in such a ceremony means confronting your own mortality. It may seem odd to suggest that Arthur is a stand in for Myers herself in the holiday, but the signs are there. Myers has a well documented history of inserting herself into her work. In a 2020 essay for the New York Times, she admitted that It's Complicated was based on her repartee with ex husband Charles Shire. I don't think Charles liked that I wrote something kind of like Us, Myers wrote. He told me at the time the movie came out that he wasn't going to see it. 10 years later, he has still never mentioned that one to me. And then there's the ex husband in Something's Gotta Give. I really do enjoy writing the ex husband character, a relationship rich with humor and filled with pain. Recently, she revealed on her Instagram that the pivotal Mr. Napkin Head act in The Holiday was something Shire used to do for their kids. Myers writes her leads as stand ins, often going through life changes similar to Myers' own, like getting married, becoming a parent, and confronting a failed relationship. Across all her work, including that with Shire, these women are often capable and complex, highly skilled with grit and determination, but still emotionally vulnerable when forced to confront a world hostile to women. There's Goldie Hawn's Judy Benjamin in Private Benjamin, 1980, an adrift widow accidentally recruited to the army, Baby Boom's 1987, JC. Wyatt Diane Keaton, a successful business executive who struggles to have it all when she inherits a baby, and Jane Adler, Meryl Streep, who struggles with divorce in its complicated 2009, rope her back into a situationship with her ex husband. In The Holiday, neither Iris nor Amanda has the complexity of a classic Myers lead. Both are extremely capable. Amanda owns a company that produces movie trailers, and Iris is a skilled columnist and writer. But Amanda's problems are having a bad boyfriend and being just slightly emotionally stiff, unable to cry since her parents' divorce. Iris, on the other hand, is a weeper and a people pleaser, stuck on a man who treats her poorly. Both solve these conundrums by meeting a nice man who has zero flaws. In Something's Gotta Give, 2003. Harry, Jack Nicholson, and Erica, Diane Keaton, both have to confront a full emotional story arc to understand they're meant to be together. I wrote about women in my films who blossomed post divorce, much as I had done in some ways. Myers said. Neither Iris nor Amanda fits the bill. Instead, Arthur acts as the avatar of Myers. His arc throughout the movie confronts her issues with a shifting Hollywood landscape. When we first see Arthur, a 90-year-old Hollywood screenwriting legend, he's struggling on a neighborhood walk. As he crosses Iris's view, his feet stutter on the sidewalk, his face screwed into a sneer of confusion and struggle. It's a face I've seen before in my ex wife's grandfather, who died the same year this movie was released. When we watched the movie for the first time together a few years later, slipping the Netflix DVD out of its red sleeve, we were hoping for a light Friday night comedy to unwind from the week. Arthur's appearance was a gut punch. Someone that old, that frail, is never long for the world. And the trauma of losing an older loved one is forever kettled inside at a low simmer. A struggle against illness is a fight that can be won. A struggle against old age is an attempt to defy time itself. For Myers, Arthur represents a world she loves that she's worried is dying. Preemptive grief is a powerful feeling. I lost my last two remaining grandparents around 6 years ago. Both were in their 90s, both died from complications of old age, and both were active until their final sharp decline. My grandfather on my dad's side lived independently in an assisted care facility at the age of 98 and was witty even when he started hospice. My grandmother on my mom's side made it to 97 by walking laps around the dining table at the house she lived in with my aunt. She walked unassisted up until the moment of her death when her body gave out mid stride. The last few years I spent with them felt weighted. Every minute we had together while they were still alive was clouded by the knowledge that soon they wouldn't be. Each transition point that they passed, turning in their driver's licenses, moving into an assisted facility, no longer being able to bake their signature cinnamon rolls, was a mile marker towards the inevitable. Towards the very end of their life, both began to struggle with their independent mobility. My grandfather would forget or flat out refuse to use his walker, and it was an eventual fall that led him to hospice. Arthur's concern with mobility is first presented as vanity. Would you like to walk out on a stage on a walker looking 100 years old and see 11 schnooks who showed up just to see you? He asked Iris, with arms outstretched as if he's pleading. Walking unassisted for someone Arthur's age is more than vanity. It's life threatening. Arthur's training montage returns to treating death lightheartedly. While Iris and Arthur turn a lap while walking in the pool, the camera flips and Arthur slips below the water's surface. It takes Iris 2 seconds to notice, and as Arthur pops up, he declares, "Yeah, I'm fine." With its jazzy plug guitar melody, the chipper score asks the audience to take the scene for laughs. In reality, what we're seeing is an old man in denial. While he says he just slipped, the camera tells a different story. Shot from the back, Arthur's head lowers slowly beyond the lip of the pool, suggesting fatigue instead of poor footing. His relationship with Iris has reinvigorated his spirit somewhat. He's never confused again after the first time she finds him lost, wandering the streets. But you have to wonder if what Iris is helping him work toward is a swan song instead of a triumphant return to strength. Arthur is only on screen for 20 minutes though, and the rest of the movie plays out the budding romances between Graham and Amanda and Iris and Miles. Jack Black. The romances in The Holiday on their own are charming but not revolutionary. On release, the movie was met with tepid reviews from both critics and audiences. Its major accolade was winning the Teen Choice Award for Chick Flick. It's a sticky label that was hard to shake in 2006, but calling a Nancy Meyers movie a chick flick is both gendered and reductive. Meyers' movies are qualified as romantic comedies, but in the same way that the Philadelphia Story 1940 is a romantic comedy. Influenced by 1940s screwballs as much as she was by the 70s New Hollywood, a Nancy Meyers joint defies modern expectations of plotting, pacing, dialogue, and scene setting. Meyers' movies, at heart, are the types of movies Arthur used to write. Maybe it was easier to place Meyers' own frustrations with the film industry on a 90-year-old Hollywood legend than to espouse them herself. Right before Iris convinces Arthur to train for his WGA award ceremony, he complains about the clip at which movies are being released. 9 movies are opening today. I remember when 9 movies would open in a month. Now, the picture has to make a killing the first weekend or they're dead. This is supposed to be conducive to great work. Something's Gotta Give ended its box office run as the 11th highest grossing film of 2003, earning $266 million worldwide from an $80 million budget. But Something's Gotta Give only opened to $16 million, half of what Charlie's Angels. Full Throttle, released 6 months prior, opened to, even though it earned less overall. Though she couldn't have known it at the time, The Holiday opened even lower at $12 million. It eventually broke $200 million. But Meyers' problems as a filmmaker were already starting. Regardless of her box office success, Meyers' career has been in limbo since The Intern was released to mixed reviews in 2015. Her most recent project, Paris Paramount, was dropped by Netflix over budget issues in 2023. Over a year later, it still appears to be stalled. Pinterest told me I'm trending. That's very nice, but I'd rather be making a movie, she wrote on her Instagram. Meyers' Instagram is a particular peek into her world. Between shots of a beautiful Beverly Hills home her daughter is renovating and countless stills of her own movies, Meyers' grid is full of tributes to old Hollywood actors and movies she loves. This is key to her despair over the state of film in 2006, as expressed through Arthur. She knows her movies are too old fashioned for the modern romantic comedy landscape and that her work is at risk of being forgotten, overlooked, or miscategorized. When Iris asks Arthur at dinner if Hollywood was really that good back then, he responds, "It was better." In that same scene, Arthur diagnoses Iris's problems using the power of film. When the camera pushes in on Iris, ugly crying over her ex, Arthur delivers his homily. "Iris, in the movies, we have leading ladies and we have the best friend. You, I can tell, are a leading lady. But for some reason, you are behaving like the best friend." It's a moment of deus ex machina. Arthur's words are Myers's. And in that moment, she's stepping directly into her own movie to give a different character. She wrote a pep talk. In this scene, Myers puts the rom-com tropes of the current day directly into her sights. Box office openings were becoming the top indicator for studio success, and romantic comedies needed formulaic reliability to juice those early numbers. Two big stars, some amount of conflict, a quirky best friend, and resolution. The romances in The Holiday are far too reminiscent of real life. Amanda has an opportunity to pursue a genuine connection, but that decision involves cross Atlantic travel and potentially becoming a stepmom. Iris lacks self esteem and lets herself be a doormat for the one man in her old life who gave her any attention. Both situations involve adults confronting the subtle weight of real world relationships and showcase small struggles instead of big comical miscommunications. In trying to subvert the cookie cutter romance, The Holiday didn't meet the categorical formula of its day. The Holiday's rom com contemporaries, films like Failure to Launch or You, Me, and Dupree, with their by the book plotting, ate the Holiday's lunch at the domestic box office on their opening weekends, despite their far poorer reviews. The true resolution of The Holiday isn't its romances. Anyway, it's Arthur's appearance at his WGA award ceremony. When he triumphantly ascends the stairs on his own, Myers imagines a happy ending for her own life, one in which she's still independent, one in which her work has worth. Before his speech trails off, Arthur remarks, "When I first arrived in Tinseltown, there were no cineplexes or multiplexes, no such thing as a blockbuster or DVD. I was here before conglomerates owned the studios, before pictures had special effects teams, and definitely before box office results were reported like baseball on the nightly news." It's a prescient speech for 2006. Just 1 month after the film's release, Netflix launched its streaming service. When Myers wrote Arthur's big speech, there wasn't precedent for how films would be rolled out in the 2020s. Her concerns over box office numbers were correct. These days, movies hit the screens for a weekend to rake in what cash they can before being shuttled off to a streaming service. Even worse, facing potentially bad openings, studios preemptively shutter already finished films for the tax breaks. The best way for authors to secure the budget for their films is to make multi picture deals with streamers, like David Fincher did with Netflix and Martin Scorsese did with Apple, but even that route isn't always viable. Netflix dropping Myers' Paramount for its budget is par for the course. It's hard to imagine a streaming service building a cottage from scratch when the movie might not even have a theatrical release to recoup the budget. Arthur's story doesn't have an ending, happy or sad. In the middle of his grand speech, the camera cuts away to Iris and Miles finally revealing their feelings towards each other, and Arthur's speech fades out entirely. It's a fitting send off for his character. At his age, he'll eventually fade out from life itself. Arthur's life and his implied eventual death carry the weight of a Hollywood forgotten. The current day Hollywood lurches onward, unrecognizable from the one that Arthur knew. Instead of being a love letter to films of old, The Holiday is almost an elegy for a world Myers knows is about to die. And truly, no one gets a holiday from death. Number 7, December 17, 2018, directed and written by Nancy Myers. 132 min. CBC Gem, Crave. So, this is what happened. A friend and colleague at work and I got talking about Christmas movies. She raved about The Holiday. She says it's a delight with just the right mix of sweetness and rom-com magic. And for those with interest in house porn, the locations. A home in Los Angeles and another in rural England are worth the price of admission. As soon as I admitted I'd never seen it, a DVD found its way into my hand. For the record, here's my relationship with Christmas movies. I'm a longtime fan of It's a Wonderful Life. I've enjoyed the conversations in recent years about the Christmas credentials of Die Hard, and I even wrote a blog post about other alternative seasonal films, but couldn't care less about Miracle on 34th Street, Home Alone, Elf, or any of the others frequently served up as genre classics. Love actually is okay, but I don't need to see it every year. Just as I am deeply ambivalent about the holiday itself, so am I a case by caser on the movies associated with said holiday, but I am a fan of a good romantic comedy. So here I am with a holiday. I'm gonna write my reactions as I go, live blog style. I kinda know the gist of the story from the trailer and reviews I've read. An American and British woman switch homes for Christmas and find love across the pond or something like that. It's written and directed by Nancy Myers, whose work includes Father of the Bride. Something's got to give. It's complicated and the intern. I have a sense of what I'm getting into. I'm watching it on a Sunday. My partner and frequent cinepanion, she's left the room. She's seen the film and hates it. She says the romantic pairings in the cast, Kate Winslet and Jack Black, Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, have no chemistry at all, and she says Diaz is especially obnoxious in this. Is she right? Or is my colleague? Let's see. Spoilers are definitely forthcoming. Kate Winslet is voice overing Jack Black and Shannon Sossamon. Shannon is clearly less interested in Jack than he is in her. But why is Kate talking over this scene? I'm sure all this will make sense soon. Kate Winslet is Iris. She's obsessed with a colleague at her work, Jasper Rufus Sewell, who she was shagging until he started shagging someone else. Shagging is a really great word. Now it's the Christmas party, and here's Jasper. He's clearly unworthy scum who's still flirting with her despite having messed her about. Iris works at a newspaper, the Daily Telegraph. The newsroom looks like an Indigo Books with Wham's Last Christmas playing. That makes sense. And we get the announcement to the gathered employees that Jasper is engaged. What a total cad. Iris walks along the south bank of the Thames. The Houses of Parliament in the background. The tube is the other way, darling. Her country cottage looks like some kind of a postcard. Is this a set? Now we're in LA. Cameron Diaz is Amanda and Edward Burns is Ethan. Amanda doesn't know how to cry. I wonder if this will play a role later in the film. Amanda has just thrown Ethan out because he's been stupping, also a great word, his 24-year-old receptionist. Amanda's house is an obvious set. Is that an orange tree outside her front door? Professionally, she cuts trailers for big budget movies, including an action picture called Deception, starring Lindsay Lohan and James Franco. I'd watch it. Her assistants are Catherine Horn and John Krasinski, who both look like they're about 16. Holy shit, Cameron Diaz is irritating. My cinepanion was right about that. Iris is crying. She's going to commit suicide by sucking on the gas stove. But then Amanda contacts her on the internet. They're going to switch homes for the holiday. What perfect timing. For someone who we know can be so undeniably fragrance-sellingly glamorous, Winslet is believably frumpy and insecure here. Diaz's movie trailer fantasies are funny, as is her driving on the wrong side of the road. The wardrobe for all is also pretty impressive. But especially Diaz, so far, so rom-com charming. The overhead lighting is appalling though. Why is it necessary to light people when they are outside like they're in a studio? Maybe because it's all shot in a studio. Even the exteriors could be. But the cast is fetching, no doubt. Lots of great teeth, something blew into Iris's eye, and Jack Black shows up to fish it out. Oh, and there's Eli Wallach, who shows up just as Ennio Morricone is mentioned. That's an interesting spaghetti western connection. Jude Law is Graham, Iris's brother. 5 minutes after he and Amanda meet, they start making out. Makes sense. When good looking people get together, this instantly happens. Or so I've always suspected. I hope Iris and Amanda meet at some point. I feel like a good rom-com is concentrated wish fulfillment. And that's my wish. Eli Wallach was a wizard. He's always got chemistry with his scene partners, whether they meet cute or not. But the Hanukkah dinner scenes is a little weird. Did he bring his housekeeper with him to make the meal? Who is that character in the background? I'm actually on board with Graham and Amanda or Jude and Cameron. Their pairing is pretty unlikely, but she's dialing back the neuroses and yelling at this point, so she's a lot easier to like. One question. How is it Sophie and Olivia, who are both under the age of 8, have cell phones? Mr. Napkinhead will haunt my nightmares. Kate Winslet and Jack Black are also surprisingly great, if also unlikely. The scene in the video store was good fun. The Dustin Hoffman cameo a nice touch. And with Wallach's Hollywood veteran, screenwriter character, bringing up all these classic features of the past, you can feel the movie wishing it was from that era, not getting anywhere near there, but wishing, oh, the fake snow is driving me nuts. Diaz running through it in her high heels is a low point. Iris and Amanda meet, and it's lovely. Though I am not exactly hopeful that either of these romantic connections will lead to any lasting happiness. So many obstacles of distance and incompatibility. If anything, The Holiday is a celebration of the rebound hookup. I'd watch a sequel where it turns out Amanda and Iris are more into each other than the boys. That would be a wonderful twist. Credits roll. That wasn't as awful as I was warned, but neither was it some kind of Christmas rom com classic. Either I fall solidly in between the poles. I thought the actors did have chemistry, and the addition of unexpected Wallach brought a lot of welcome extra flavor. At times, it cleaved a little too closely to the rom com formula, but not so much I felt any lingering animosity. There was, however, no reason this picture needed to be more than 2 hours. And I never much thought the houses were special because they seemed so obviously sets rather than actual interiors. Enjoy your holidays, one and all.